What's that strange white thing on a cow? Why does Vladimir Putin walk the way he does? And what on earth is this? These might sound like odd questions, but the answers are surprisingly important. Why does Putin walk so strangely? Have you ever noticed Vladimir Putin's unusual walk? Most people swing their arms naturally. Left arm with right leg, right arm with left leg. But Putin's stride is different. His left arm swings normally with his right leg, while his right arm stays close to his body, barely moving at all. This peculiar gait has sparked speculation. Some suggested neurological disorders like Parkinson's disease, but Putin shows no tremors, weakness, or other symptoms, and he has walked this way consistently for years, ruling out that theory. In 2015, neurologist Dr. Bastian Blom and his team offered a more intriguing explanation. They proposed that Putin's gunslinger's gait may trace back to his KGB training. According to old KGB manuals, operatives were taught to keep one arm near the chest, as if ready to draw a weapon. This training could have ingrained the habit so deeply that Putin still walks this way decades later. Supporting this idea, other former KGB and Russian military officials, including ex-Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev and former defense ministers, display similar walking patterns. While it remains speculative, the consistency of this trait among ex-KGB members makes the theory far more convincing than any medical explanation. What's that dangly thing in your throat? Ever notice that little dangling piece of tissue at the back of your throat? It looks like a tiny punching bag, but it actually has a very important job. That structure is called the uvula, and it's far more useful than it seems. For starters, when you swallow, the uvula helps block food and liquid from entering your nasal passages, so without it, eating could get pretty messy. It also constantly produces saliva, keeping your throat moist and making swallowing easier. What's fascinating is that you're controlling it all the time without realizing it. The uvula contains a small muscle that allows it to move, which plays an important role in speech. It helps you pronounce sounds clearly and keeps your voice from sounding nasal. So, the next time you look at it in the mirror, remember, the uvula isn't just hanging there for decoration. It's busy preventing choking, helping you talk, and keeping your throat in top shape. Those facts were bizarre, but not nearly as strange as the story behind bubble wrap, the gross truth about mistletoe, or the creepy myth of how many spiders you eat while you're asleep. Each of these is weirder than the last. Do you really swallow spiders in your sleep? Whenever I spot one in my house, I grab a glass, trap it, and toss it outside, then spend the next 10 minutes dry heaving into a paper bag. Touching one is bad enough, but swallowing one, that's pure nightmare fuel. You've probably heard the fact that humans swallow between 4 and 8 spiders a year while sleeping. Or maybe you've heard the version that says about 20 in a lifetime. Either way, that's way too many unwanted midnight snacks. If we go with the 8-a-year claim, then Earth's 8 billion people would collectively swallow 64 billion spiders annually. Picture all those creepy crawlies in the same bedroom. That's horrifying. But the truth? That yearly loss wouldn't even dent the quadrillions of spiders on Earth. Fortunately, the myth falls apart under scrutiny. For one, spiders aren't evenly spread across the world. For another, they only feed by spinning webs or actively hunting prey. A human mouth? Too small and unstable for a web, and unless you've got flies buzzing inside, it's useless for hunting. Add in the fact that spiders are hypersensitive to movement thanks to the tiny hairs on their legs, and a warm, breathing, saliva-filled mouth becomes one of the last places they'd want to be. So, where did this myth come from? It was first noted in a 1954 folklore book, but it really spread in 1993 when journalist Lisa Hull used it as an example of how false information can go viral online. The irony? Her own example went viral, exactly proving her point. At least you could say her theory had plenty of legs. We went to the moon before putting wheels on suitcases. We all know the famous line from 1969, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." When Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon, humanity proved just how far technology could go. But back on Earth, people were still lugging suitcases around by their handles, like Neanderthals. It wasn't until 1972, 3 years later, that someone finally patented the idea of wheeled luggage. Priorities, right? As ridiculous as it sounds, There's a reason it happened in this order. The space race of the 1960s poured resources into cutting-edge aerospace innovation, while long-haul travel simply wasn't as common at the time. Even so, it's pretty astonishing that humans managed to reach the moon before realizing they could just stick a few little wheels on a suitcase. The gross truth about mistletoe. Kissing under the mistletoe has become one of those quirky Christmas traditions. But have you ever wondered where it came from, or how the plant got such a strange name? Sorry to burst your love bubble, but mistletoe isn't nearly as romantic as it seems. The name itself comes from its less than charming origins. Birds like the mistle thrush eat the berries, digest the seeds, and then poop them out on tree branches, where new plants grow. In Old English, mistle meant dung, and tan meant twig, so mistletoe literally translates to dung twig. And the weirdness doesn't stop there. Most types of mistletoe are actually parasites. They can't fully survive on photosynthesis alone, so they leach nutrients from the trees they grow on. Some species, like the North American Archeuthobium pusillum, are total parasites, feeding entirely off their host tree without producing any leaves of their own. So, the next time you lean in for a cheeky kiss under the mistletoe, remember, you're smooching beneath a parasitic, poop-grown twig. The bizarre cat piano. History is full of strange, failed inventions, but few are as absurd, or as cruel, as the infamous cat organ, also known as the Katzenklavia. Picture this: 10 cats lined up in boxes, each with its tail stretched beneath a keyboard. Every time a key was pressed, it would tug or prick the tail of a cat, making it yowl in pain. The cats were even arranged by pitch, so their meows created a kind of twisted music. The first mention of this grotesque contraption dates back to 1596, when a drawing appeared in a book by Johann Theodor de Brie. Shockingly, the idea wasn't just treated as a joke. Some circles actually considered it therapeutic. According to legend, an Italian prince was suddenly cured of his psychopathy after seeing a depiction of the cat piano. Later, medical theorist Johann Christian Ryle suggested it as a treatment for conditions like schizophrenia. How exactly it was supposed to work is anyone's guess, but the reasoning seemed to be that something so bizarre could snap people out of madness. Thankfully for cats everywhere, there's no evidence anyone ever actually built one. But the fact that it was even proposed is strange enough on its own. The law against donkeys in bathtubs. Even the smartest minds might struggle to understand why Arizona has a law forbidding donkeys from sleeping in bathtubs. But the story behind it is as bizarre as the law itself. In 1924, a dam near Kingman collapsed, unleashing a flash flood that carried a donkey, who had dozed off in an abandoned bathtub, a whole mile downstream. Rescuing the poor animal turned into an exhausting and costly ordeal for the townspeople. Determined never to repeat the fiasco, they lobbied for a law that made it illegal for donkeys to sleep in bathtubs. And from then on, while donkeys could stand in them or be bathed, catching a nap was strictly off limits. Sadly, the donkey never got a vote. Cow hole. What you're looking at is a cannulated cow, a cow surgically fitted with a device called a cannula, essentially a rubber port on its side. This allows veterinarians and researchers direct access to the cow's digestive system. By collecting samples, they can analyze how well different foods are digested, determine which diets provide the best nutrition, and make recommendations that help farmers worldwide improve livestock health. Studies using cannulated cows have shown how certain feeds increase both the quality and quantity of milk and meat. Others have revealed how adjusting diets can reduce methane emissions, helping to combat climate change. In some cases, samples taken from a healthy cow can even be transplanted into a sick one to restore its gut microbiota, a process known as transformation or microbiota transplant. Although it looks unusual, this practice has been around since the 1920s. The procedure is done under local anesthesia, with the skin carefully stitched around the device to prevent infection. However, its use has declined in recent years due to ethical concerns. Today, scientists often use plastic laboratory models of a cow's stomach instead of performing the procedure on live animals. Bubble wrap. There's nothing more satisfying than popping bubble wrap, but this iconic packing material wasn't invented for protection at all. In 1957, inventors Alfred Fielding and Mark Chavans were trying to create a trendy new type of textured wallpaper. They sealed 2 shower curtains together with heat, accidentally trapping bubbles of air inside. The result was flimsy, ugly, and utterly unfit for interior design. They tried repurposing it as greenhouse insulation, but that didn't take off either. Finally, they realized its true potential as protective packaging, and bubble wrap's destiny was sealed. Today, over 240,000 miles of bubble wrap is produced annually, enough to wrap around the Earth 10 times. Not bad for what could have been the world's ugliest wallpaper. The law that decided how to say Arkansas. If your name can be pronounced in a dozen different ways, you'll know how irritating it is when people keep butchering it. But imagine passing an actual law to settle the matter. That's exactly what happened in the state of Arkansas. According to Title 1, Chapter 4, Section 104 of the Arkansas Code, there's only one correct way to pronounce the state's name, Arkansas, with the final S silent. Say Arkansas or Arkansas, and technically, you're breaking the law. This rule was officially adopted back in 1881, cementing the proper pronunciation once and for all. What's unclear, however, is what the punishment would be for mispronouncing it, if there even is one. Still, it stands as one of the strangest language laws in the US, and if you thought that was a little dumb, oh boy, the legal world has plenty more where that came from. The lizard that was literally full of crap. In May 2020, Florida biologist Natalie Clunch stumbled across a strange-looking curly-tailed lizard near a pizza parlor in Cocoa Beach. At first glance, the pear-shaped reptile looked like it was swollen with eggs, but what she discovered was far stranger. Clunch noted that eggs usually feel like jelly beans, but this bulge felt more like a semi-solid putty. X-ray scans revealed the shocking truth. The lizard was completely filled with poop. As it feasted on insects and other small reptiles, it also swallowed bits of grease, sand, and debris that clumped together into a rock-hard mass far too dense to pass. By the time Clunch found it, the lizard was so constipated it had to be humanely euthanized. The female weighed just about 1 ounce, but the fecal mass alone tipped the scales at 0.88 ounces, an incredible 78.5% of its total body weight. In fact, the pressure was so extreme that many of the lizard's internal organs had essentially been crushed out of existence. So, next time you feel stuffed after Thanksgiving dinner, just remember, it could be worse. You could be this poor lizard. How okay became the most spoken word in the world. According to author Alan Metcalf, okay is the most frequently spoken word worldwide. But what does it actually mean? Historically, okay is an abbreviation of all correct. But how does all correct become okay when there isn't even a K? The answer lies in a 19th century fad for playful misspellings. In 1839, a Boston newspaper editor, clearly trying to get down with the kids, deliberately spelled all correct as all correct and abbreviated it to OK. Other examples from the era include no go becoming KNOW go and all right becoming all WRITE. The abbreviation stuck, and by the 1840 election of Martin Van Buren, supporters formed the OK Club, named after Van Buren's nickname Old Kinderhook. The phrase became so widely used that it has survived for nearly 200 years, eventually becoming the universally recognized word we know today. The lone resident of Monowi, Nebraska. Some people prefer solitude, but 89-year-old Elsie Eller takes it to another level as the only resident of Monowi, Nebraska. She serves multiple roles in her town: mayor, librarian, bartender, clerk, secretary, and tavern owner. Every morning at 9 a.m., except Mondays, she opens the Monowi Tavern, serving burgers, hot dogs, and what she humorously calls the coldest beer in town. Despite her isolation, visitors from 47 US states and 41 countries have stopped by. Once a bustling railroad town, Monowi's population dwindled, and after her husband's passing in 2004, Ella became its sole resident. She jokes that being the only voter guarantees an easy mayoral win, but admits drawbacks, like paying $500 in taxes to fund the town's 3 streetlights and water supply. Vending machines versus sharks. Vending machines are often seen as harmless everyday conveniences, but statistically, they are far deadlier than sharks in the United States. While sharks have been painted as terrifying predators thanks to movies and media, the actual number of fatal shark attacks remains incredibly low. On average, less than 1 death per year in the US. By contrast, vending machines, those hulking metal snack dispensers found in schools, offices, and public spaces, topple over and kill an average of 2 to 4 people annually and injure around 1,700 more. Most vending machine accidents occur when frustrated customers attempt to shake, rock, or tip the machine to retrieve a snack or drink that got stuck. Standing nearly 6 feet tall, weighing 400 to 900 pounds, and poorly anchored in many locations, these machines can easily topple over, creating immense crushing force. Tragically, most injuries caused by vending machines result from the machines falling directly onto people, leading to broken bones, internal injuries, or even fatal head trauma. The origins of high heels. While today high heels are almost universally seen as a symbol of women's fashion, their story begins quite differently. In the 10th century, heels were originally designed for men, specifically horsemen. The elevated heel helped riders keep their feet secure in stirrups, providing greater stability and control while riding. This practical innovation soon evolved into a status symbol. Wearing heels became a way to signal wealth and social standing, since only those who could afford fine horses and skilled riding equipment could use them effectively. By the 16th and 17th centuries, this trend had spread across Europe. Men of the aristocracy wore high-heeled shoes to display power and privilege, often pairing them with elaborate clothing that emphasized their social rank. Eventually, upper-class women adopted the style, both to assert equality with men and to demonstrate refinement. By the 19th century, however, high heels for men had largely fallen out of fashion, deemed impractical for everyday life. Women, on the other hand, embraced heels as decorative and fashionable accessories, adding height, elegance, and a sense of allure. Over time, heels became less about practicality and more about style, evolving into the wide variety of shapes, heights, and designs we recognize today. In short, high heels are more than a fashion statement. They're a centuries-old symbol of status, power, and social evolution, originally worn by men before becoming a quintessential part of women's wardrobes. You can't die in Longyearbyen, Norway. Longyearbyen, located on the remote Svalbard archipelago in the Arctic, is famous for its stunning polar landscapes, but it also has a very unusual law. Residents are not allowed to die in town. This is not a metaphorical statement. The town sits atop permafrost, which preserves bodies almost indefinitely. Decades ago, locals realized that burials in the town's cemetery resulted in corpses that never fully decomposed, creating the potential for disease outbreaks. In fact, scientists later discovered living samples of the 1918 Spanish flu virus in preserved corpses, highlighting the real danger. As a result, anyone nearing the end of life must be transported to the Norwegian mainland to be buried. This law ensures public health, but it also makes Longyearbyen one of the few places on Earth where you literally cannot die at home. Why Mickey Mouse has 4 fingers? Have you ever wondered why Mickey Mouse, Bart Simpson, SpongeBob, and almost every classic cartoon character have only 4 fingers? The answer lies in animation history and practicality. Early animation was painstaking work. Every second of a cartoon required dozens of hand-drawn frames. Adding a 5th finger to every hand in every frame would have significantly increased the workload, costing more time and money. Beyond practicality, 4 fingers were found to be visually balanced. 3 fingers looked too alien, 5 looked overly human and awkward. So 4 fingers became the standard, saving animators' labor while keeping characters charming and easy to draw. The result is that this small artistic decision has now become an iconic feature of cartoon characters around the world. Disney World versus mosquitoes. Disney World in Florida might seem like the perfect place for mosquitoes, given its hot, swampy climate, yet visitors are rarely bothered by these pests. This is thanks to a secret mosquito surveillance program. The park uses carbon dioxide traps to mimic human breath and lure mosquitoes in, making it easier to track and control populations. But that's not all. Disney also employs sentinel chickens throughout the park. These chickens don't get sick but act as early warning systems. Their blood is tested for mosquito-borne viruses like West Nile. If a threat is detected, the Disney Pest Control team takes immediate action, reducing the risk of outbreaks. It's a high-tech and surprisingly effective method that keeps the magic alive, without itchy mosquito bites. the snail that slept for 5 years. In 1846, the British Museum had an unusual mishap involving a snail. A specimen collected in the Egyptian desert by Charles Lamb Esquire was mistaken for dead and glued to a display card. What the curators didn't realize was that the snail had simply retreated into a deep sleep, a natural defensive state. Amazingly, it stayed attached to the card for 5 years without anyone noticing it was alive. Eventually, museum staff discovered subtle movement and carefully removed the snail, providing it with water and food. The snail immediately emerged and went back to normal behavior, eventually falling asleep again for 2 more years. This incident is a testament to the resilience and survival strategies of even the smallest creatures, as well as a reminder that appearances can be deceiving. Match.com origins. Match.com, one of the world's first and largest online dating platforms, was created in 1993 by Gary Kremen. He envisioned the internet as a way for strangers to connect romantically, a concept that was completely new at the time. To test the idea, Kremen required all employees to create profiles, including his own girlfriend. Ironically, this experiment backfired. His girlfriend met someone new through the site and left him. While personally unfortunate, the incident proved that online dating could work, validating Kremen's concept. Match.com grew rapidly from there, eventually hosting millions of users worldwide and fundamentally changing the way people meet and form relationships. That's all for today. Which of these facts blew your mind the most? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this dive into the weird and wonderful, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss out on more mind-boggling stories.